Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fifth episode of the NACP podcast. I'm your host, Calvin. I'm joined today with my co-host, Leo.
Hello.
And we have an extremely special guest here today, former champion of our group. We've got Sean.
Hey, nice to be here. Not sure if I'm supposed to be a special guest.
I didn't realize
Well,
there was such a VIP here. Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
As well, it's one of our group's premier players. I think you're definitely a super special guest. So glad to have you here. Okay, so we're just gonna start right with the Week 7 recap here. So I'll start things off by talking about Hayden. So he had a bit of a late Sunday night battle with Kyler there, which unfortunately he lost. But he did come out with a pretty strong win against William this week. But due to that 50-50 win-loss, Hayden unfortunately did not move up at all in the standings, so he's still sitting there at 13th place.
Yeah, we had a lot of late night games happen. That chat got flooded Sunday night.
Yeah, everyone was panicking. It was absolute chaos.
It was. But moving on to Laurel. Laurel had a bye this week, and for other games, she lost to Calvin in a -3. She's now sitting at a 5-7 win-loss, a +5 differential, and has moved down to 11th place.
Then next up is Kelsey. Big congratulations to her. Won her first game against Dan, +1 differential, with the and nearly won a game against Kyler. So now she's won 11 and went up to 15th place, moving right ahead of Steven.
Yeah, good job, Kelsey. That was very good. So far, nobody has getting swept this season, which I'm very happy about. Everybody's gotten a win.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, there's no 0 wins.
Thank God.
Yeah, so it's definitely great to see some of the newer players improving. But speaking of a not-so-new player, Leo this week did pretty good. He had a bye week, but still, he made his 1 week count. He defeated Lewis in a pretty strong definitive game, I'd say. And Leo is holding on to that third place spot. As tough as it is, so much competition in these top 5 spots. It's getting ridiculous, honestly.
This week,
everyone's right up.
This week is going to be a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah, because does everybody only have 1 game for the final week? Is that a thing with everybody, or is that like, do I have another bye at the end of the week?
Yeah, it's only 1.
Okay, so this week is a big week. But moving on to Ross. Ross had a really good week. Defeated Luke at a +4 and defeated Dan at a +2. He has now entered the fray for this illustrious, what was the first place race is now the second place race with the 9 wins.
All right, then William came up. He defeated Stephen with a +6, a nice little sweep there. And then he lost to Hayden, and he's sticking strong at 14 right there. 4-8 win ratio. Differential of -12, not
too bad. Lewis had a pretty rough week. He was sitting at the 8th spot. If you were watching last week's podcast, we had him on here. Seemed to be doing pretty good, but this week just was a really rocky week for him, honestly. Took a big loss to Leo, and then for someone else in a playoff contention, he took a loss to Chris. So unfortunately, that actually has knocked him out of playoff contention right now. So he's at 10th place. But honestly, it's still so very close. If he can nab up a few wins near the end of the season here, I think he's still got a pretty good shot of getting in.
Yeah. Moving on to Sean. Sean had you had a bit of a rough week, 2 like real back-to-back losses, but they were both good games. Fun to watch. At least the Calvin match was a brawl, to say the least.
Still a little salty over Luke, but that's okay.
Yeah. But,
not so much salty over the battle, more the end there.
That was hilarious, though. It was very funny.
I was so proud the one thing went right. Anyway, moving on to Chris, I guess. Bit of an okay week. He lost to Reggie -5, not a big surprise, as Reggie's been a tough player, and won against Louis +4. And he's actually moved up from 7th spot to 6th place, so pretty good job there. +9 differential, win-loss 7-6. So yeah,
no, Chris is definitely separating himself from that 6-win pack, which is good. But moving on to Kyler here, he was having definitely some tough times getting some wins, but this week it was a pretty strong week for him, I'd say. Defeated Hayden and Kelsey both in some close matches, but he's just on the brink of playoff contention with this strong week. 6-6 win-loss, -4 differential, not too bad, but he's real close. Like I said, there's so many people etching to get in at this point.
Moving on to Reggie, another contender for that first place slot. He had a very good week. 2 big wins, one against Chris and one against Shane, who are both real contenders for those higher spots. So that's going to be real good for Reggie's place in the standings. He maintains his second place spot with a 10-4 win-loss ratio.
yeah, that's not intimidating at all.
Not remotely.
All right, next up is Luke. I lost to him. He got +3, and he lost against Ross. Sorry, -4, and he's right there, just edging into playoffs from 10th place. He's now into 8th place. 6-6 win-loss with a differential of -2. Only 2 points ahead of Kyler, so he better watch his spot. Kyler might sneak up on him.
That's true. So
You got to
talk about myself now. Yeah, it's always good. Yeah, I got a really good week this week. Defeated Sean, my arch nemesis, the guy who just
Brings the
destroys
weirdest
my
sets.
brings the weirdest sets, and it's so hard to play against sometimes. But yeah, I beat him. Beat Laurel in a game where it's really hard to prep against her team. Like, I know she's not been doing the greatest near the end of the season here, but man, her team still is really hard to prep against. So I'm glad I got that win. Sitting strong at first, can't complain.
Awesome. Moving on to Dan. He lost to Kelsey, and he lost to Ross in what were both really close games. We congratulated Kelsey for that win before, but losing to Ross is nothing to be ashamed of. Ross is really coming out strong these last couple of weeks, so hardly something to be ashamed of.
Ross is a tough player, and that
Definitely.
Anyway, next up is Shane. Only had 1 game this week. He went up against Reggie. Lost -2, but again, nothing really to be ashamed of there because Reggie's proven himself to be really tough. 8-5 win-loss ratio, differential +8, and in 5th place. So moved down from 4th, I believe.
Yeah, he was 4th.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, still in the playoffs, but slowly moving down a little bit. Probably will still be in there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think you need to worry about that.
Yeah, finally ending off with Steven here. Took a pretty strong loss to William, unfortunately. But, like I said, honestly, take what you can out of this season. You came in, you got a lot of great experience. You did get a win this season. And honestly, I'd say Steven, from beginning of the season to the end here, has improved drastically as a player.
And hey, you never know. He might snag a win this week or next week.
Yeah.
There's a great possibility of that.
Wouldn't surprise me. Him and Kelsey have definitely been the ones that you've seen the most growth in for this, I would say.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right. That about does it for the standings recap. Anybody have comments on, I don't know, kill leaders? Anything interesting there? Low Punny is still a free agent, which is hilarious.
I'm amazed that Mega Lopunny has not been snatched up by someone perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Well, it's sitting there on the shelf just waiting. 18 kills, guys. You want to throw your name on the kill leaders? There you go. I think once the final kill leaderboard, like the complete one of everyone's team, comes out at the end of the season, I think we'll definitely be able to see some of the more interesting stats. Like, it's good to see these top 5 people, but seeing like, oh, how's everybody on this person's said team? Because the kill distribution could be more evenly laid out. It could be more specialized. Like, I don't know. It's very interesting.
What's also interesting is don't forget that kills are definitely really important for sweepers, but for things like the more tanky Pokemon, which don't get kills but set up the rocks, tank some of the bigger hits, that's also important.
That was things like that are the big reason why I really wanted to do like the superlatives at the end of the season for last season and like 2 seasons ago, just for things like that, where like kills are the one thing that kind of gets tracked naturally, and everything else people have to sort of think about, which is why I kind of like that superlative system for things like supporters and rockers and defoggers, like all helpful things that don't get as much recognition sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I think we're good to move on to our first team analysis of this week. So we're going to be taking a quick look. Not a quick look. We'll be taking a pretty good in-depth look at Lewis's team here today.
All right, starting off, Luis's team is absolutely electrifying.
Okay.
That's what
Yeah, sorry, had to get him one. Just starting off quickly, Luis's team, based on what I've seen from him, he tends to bring a lot of the same Pokemon with each other, which makes sense. He brings Tapu Koko and Manectric a lot of the time, which electric terrain boost is nothing to sneer at, and he definitely brings Heracross a lot. Now, I personally think he's got no traits so far. He's got a lot of room for shaking up the team, so this is by no means a definitive version, but obviously if you're preparing for him, you gotta watch out for that electric core. Heracross, I feel like he's a little bit underusing the Guts thing. Guts is really a great ability. He should really use it a bit more. And everyone's got to really watch out for that Slurpuff because it's a huge threat with Unburden and Belly Drum.
He broke out the Calm Mind Slurpuff against me, which I friggin' never saw coming. That is a thing that I can say that I haven't really seen outside of random battles.
That is very true.
Funny.
It's very interesting. But Slurpuff's Unburden ability definitely fits really well onto this team, honestly. I liked how he got such a lower tier guy just to be able to, work in tandem with like Tapu Koko and just like even outperform the Mega Manectric in a lot of ways. I think he's used his Slurpuff better than Manectric, honestly.
I mean, how could you not? He's doing the budget. It's a budget Halucha. Like the strategy is tried and true. It works in OU really well, and well, Slurpuff definitely isn't going to be killing it all the time and as easily as something like a Halucha does. Having that fairy type is a pretty nice thing to have, actually, in an Unburdened user. And having speed control on a fairy type, oh my god, it's amazing.
And something you can't forget also is Halucha gets Sword Stance, which boosts its attack to huge levels. But Slurpuff gets freaking Belly Drum. That maximizes attack. You're not going to be walking away from something after. At least not attack.
Yeah. You're either getting worn down completely or you're just getting a clean KO. But there are a few problems with this team I would like to point out a little bit. Obviously, I do feel like you run into the same, the usual suspects every week with how his teams run. So you can practically always expect to see Tapu Koko in tandem with Slurpuff and Manectric, which makes prepping for him a lot easier.
Which is weird. When I thought him, I was prepping for the Slurpuff big time, but it never popped up. I think the team was Tapu Koko, Manectric, Swampert, Shaman, and Silvally, I believe. There was no Slurpuff, which was really surprising.
And on the other side of things, against me, I was surprised that he did take the Slurpuff, and he tried to lure me in with the Babiri Berry in the Steelix matchup and do a Calm Mind set. And it was hilarious, honestly. I never thought that somebody would take a Slurpuff willingly into a Mega Steelix core. But he did, the madman.
Yeah,
and it almost worked.
It did some things. One thought that I have as far as fixing the sameness problem is a really simple one, and that is that I think that the Z Crystal user should be on Necrozma instead of Tapu Koko, purely for a flexibility thing. I know that Tapu Koko is a beloved Z move user in OU, but you're not going to be surprising people as much with Gigavolt Havoc on a Tapu Koko in a draft league. People know it's coming up, and really his options are it's like Electrium Z and like Fly EMZ, and that's kind of it as far as the kind of things you would want to run, and it's just a little bit too predictable, in my opinion. Necrozma can run every single freaking Z move that there is, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if he really wants to surprise someone, he might be able to go Grassium Z with Grass Knot, but even then, it's not going to be hitting very.
Yeah. And it's one of those moves where like you take it just to have the Z move for it, like all the people that do like the Bloom Doom Solar Beam.
Oh God.
I feel like the Grass Knot, aside from a select few Pokemon, the Grass Knot kind of becomes the same thing. And really, he has already drafted one of the Pokemon that you would take Grass Knot as coverage for. So that like cuts the field of Pokemon you would want to hit with a Grass Knot down so low.
Yeah. What's the what's I'm looking for? What's the process for switching Z users anyway? Like, does that count as a trade?
It counts as a Z trade, so you can transfer it 3 times for the season, which not many people have utilized.
That's fair.
Yeah, the only one that I know of is Hayden, right?
Hayden and I did it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You did it as well.
Yeah.
Because everybody else, they just, if they traded Z users, it was because they traded them on away.
Mm-hmm. True. So, but looking at some more of the composition of his team, I do like how he does have good options to help support the strong electric core and like the ground weakness. Obviously, you see Shaman, which is a good bulky grass type, which will help mitigate some of the threats there. Swampert's bulky, and it also helps with like stealth rocks, and it's just such a great tank. It can kind of
it's
just get thrown in there, and you always expect it to take a couple hits regardless, unless it's grass. And then Golbat, I think, though it's sometimes unreliable with how meh it can be. It's got bulk, and it's got good resistances, which I think help.
It's slower than I thought it was. I didn't realize that it was only base 90. I always thought it was faster.
You're thinking, Crobat really kind of skews the idea.
Crazy fast.
Yeah. But, yeah, I think he's got good momentum in his team. Like, he does, obviously, you get the natural Volt turning and U-turning with Tapu Koko Manectric. But he's even got options with Silvally Steel, as a get-out-of-jail-free card, Parting Shot, or Defog.
Yeah.
And it's just it can run any other moves for coverage. So Silvally Steel is good in that role. Yeah, I do feel like that Necrozma really wants a Z Crystal. It's just that if there's one Pokemon on his team, I think he's underutilized. It's easily the Necrozma. It's not the threat that he could have been bringing every week. Like
speaking from experience, that Pokemon is a menace if you use it right. Its setup ability with things like Calm Mind, Storm Power. It gets Sword Stance or it gets Calm Mind, so you can set it up physically or specially. Autotomize and Rock Polish, so you can make it fast. Weakness Policy is amazing because it's got Prism Armor, so it can take super effective hits. It's just it's freaking amazing, and it's been underutilized.
You can even pull like a Renucleus and run Iron Defense and Calm Mind and just mono attacking. Like
Iron Defense, Calm Mind, Stored Power.
Ugh.
Oh, please stop.
Nightmares.
And then you also get Signal Beam for the dark types.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so. But I do like his team. It's just having the Koko Manectric, it's. Yeah, and the other offense, like he does have other offensive options, but Necrozma's lacking the Z Crystal. Magmortar can be okay.
Mm-hmm. On the flip side of the Golbat, Magmortar is a lot faster than I expected it to be, and it actually makes her a pretty good choice sweeper. You can make it a breaker with the spec set, or you can actually make it decently fast with a Scarf.
Mm-hmm. Even with an expert belt, Magmortar's got a lot of variety to it. Thunderbolt, Fire Blast. It's got Soul Beam for the Grass CMZ, but you can't really switch.
Mm-hmm.
But Magmortar's got a lot of moves it can use.
That's true.
It's one of those Pokemon I'm surprised doesn't have Mega Launcher. Like, just make it a Fire-type Clawitzer.
Okay, let's not make it terrifying.
Give it a Mega Launcher. Boom. Do it.
Oh, boy. And in traditional fashion, we give a Mega with a terrible ability to Electivire.
Oh, of course.
Please, no.
I don't know.
Just give it base Lightning Rod. Have it downgrade from Motor Drive to base Lightning Rod.
And then just like lower its speed or something stupid. Give it more special defense. Yeah.
Man, we're getting off topic. I'm sorry. I make puns.
That's okay. So I don't know. Any other thoughts with your I don't know, with Lewis's team as
Uh,
far as how it functions?
Sean pointed out earlier that he hasn't used any of his trades, and I think that's for good reason. I think he's got, like, from the get go, he's had one of the more cohesive teams. And even with the benefit of hindsight, now that people have had a whole season of trades to sort of pick and choose what they want and shore up weaknesses that they noticed earlier on, even where now people are at what are, for the most part, upgrades of the teams they originally drafted, Lewis's team still looks competitive even as it stood right from the get-go, and there's a reason for that. It's really cohesive. And even though the Coco Manetric are a predictable core to bring, they're predictable because they're incredibly reliable, and they can break through a lot of stuff as long as he has even a little bit of ways to help with the ground cores that would counter him. So I like Lewis's team a lot.
My only other thing is that he seems to be a little bit indecisive about the abilities. When I went up against him, his Manetric had base ability, I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't Lightning Rod, which would have saved him against one of my Volt Switches. Mm-hmm. And he seems to bring Heracross Moxie a lot, as opposed to Guts, when Guts would probably be a big advantage over a lot of stuff. Because Guts Heracross is breaking through a lot of stuff.
Well, yeah, he really needs a breaker to actually utilize Tapu Koko's sweeping speed. So, yeah, Heracross should be running Guts most times, I'd say. Mm.
But entering the last minute here, do we want to talk star ratings?
I feel like his team's really strong, and the openness he has for last minute trades, I feel confident given his team. I'd say maybe a 4, just because it's so strong without the trades he's made. The fact that he could last minute pull in some wild cards to throw people off guard, I think I'd say 4-star.
That's actually about the number I had mine. Sorry, Sean. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
That's all right. I'd say probably similar without any trades. I'd say 3 stars, just because it's predictable and it's reliable, but it's still predictable. If he puts any trades in, then probably upgrade to a 4-star.
I think as it stands now, Lewis's whole team might not be 4-star worthy, but I think he is able to field a strong out of 6 most of the time, that I'm not really concerned about the state of the rest of his team. I think the Magmortar is a nice thing to have, but could probably be traded out for something that has brings something a little bit more different to his team than a Manectric does. Obviously, they cover different weaknesses, but at the same time, they just kind of end up being really hard specially attacking nukers. And I think that with a little bit of trading around and some kind of molding around different roles, his lower tiers especially could bring his team up even higher. But for now, I feel he deserves about a 4-star as well.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, take from that what you will, Lewis. Cool. So next, do we want to run right into Sean's team analysis now?
I think we should.
All right, cool. Let's do it. Let's expose all my weaknesses.
I need to put a little more time on this one.
Oh, for sure.
Just
cool. So, right out of the gates, and I'm brutally honest, Sean. I actually thought you have probably one of the weakest teams in the league. For a few reasons. I felt as though the offensive options on your team were a little too samey and easily to counter. Like the electric offense plus for Alligator was really the only offense I saw on your team at the time. And me thinking, it's like, well, that just gets walled by grass types. And then just a lot of bulk. Like, I'd say the bulk is definitely what's been the best part of your team. But even then, I don't think they really help too much with each other's weaknesses that great. Like, your fairies, like, I don't know what your fairy switch-ins were really your fighting's okay, but Dark wasn't very good either. I don't know. It just, I felt like you had, on paper, it's like, okay, I have a physical wall. I have a special wall. I have a general tank. But
I didn't have any type.
Yeah, like type cohesiveness, if that makes sense. I don't know. Anybody else? Like, am I wrong? What do you guys think?
I know what you mean. Before some of your early trades or some of your trades came in, there was definitely an issue with your ability to switch into some of the scarier offensive threats in the league. In particular, my Tapu Lele, or like say, well, you got decent coverage for the Alakazam from Kelsey if it were a little more well utilized, but the switch-ins for some of the scarier like fairy types were a little bit limited for you, and you have done a good amount of things to change that. You've picked up Delphox and Magneton, which now are pretty solid resisted switch-ins for you, and gotten rid of some of the weirder parts of your team, like the Claydol for Comfey trade. I feel like I could see you taking advantage of the Comfey, so I know that you appreciate that one a lot.
Claydol was more of a like, oh, I need something with rapid spin or something to put up rocks just in case. But as the first week on, I realized, oh, okay, this is not. I'm not used to using Claydol, and Claydol's not really being appreciated by me. So I figured I'd just switch for Comfey, who I know I can use fairly well.
There's been a lot of history with Comfey in this league, and it's been one that has definitely put in some work over time. Was it Jared that had the Comfey in the BDL?
No.
Or was it Ross?
It was Carter.
It was right. Carter loved that calm mindset. Everybody loves that calm mindset. It's amazing.
For good reason. Good reason.
Oh, yeah.
Sean, you want to maybe go a little bit into kind of the roles that you had outlined when you were making your team, and what you think, I don't know, what you think your team is stronger at, and kind of the way that your roles help you out?
Yes, get straight from me. All right. Probably the main core I wanted to build around was Sableye Mega, just because I love Sableye and love the Mega form. It's a great tank as long as you don't go up against any fairy types, and as long as you specialize toward either special or physical. And Magic Bounce is just great answer to Stealth Rocks or any other stats moves. And then Hippowdon I've always had a bit of a history with, so if I specialize Sableye towards a special defense, I could easily specialize Hippowdon towards the regular defense. So it would be a nice dual coverage right there. Zeraora, I wanted that one just because it was fast. It's physically offensive. It's basically a physically offensive Jolteon is how I look at it. And I'm really quite useful in using Choice Scarf or Choice Specs or Banded, and using that to switch in and out for a little bit of pivoting. Originally I had Celebi, and I had to give up because of I had a little too much bug weakness, what with Celebi, Mesprit, Rotom Mow. There's just too much bug weaknesses for me. And I think I made a good trade for Magneton in the fact that it's now Steel type, so I can easily help protect stuff from that. It gives me a nice fairy switch in. I will admit the Electric type is probably not great considering I have 3 of them on my team now, but I can throw an Eviolite or use Magnet Pull to trap some other Steel types, which is always nice. Porygon 2 is probably my MVP defensive tank. It can be either physical or defensive depending on how I like it, so it's another choice for tank-wise. It's got some great abilities in Analytic and Trace. It's got reliable recovery and recover, so I absolutely love it there. Rotom Mow, like Zeraora, they both fill kind of a similar role, which I will make. They overlap a little too much. It can be a great pivot with Volt Switch, and Leaf Storm can pretty much eat up any electric types or ground types. Trick is definitely a nice ability on Rotom Mow. Nice move, sorry. On Rotom Mow, if I can get the right Trick Mon on it.
Oh, unfortunate.
Yes, I've had a few of those. Frallier is always a nice sweeper if I can set up once or twice with it. I can probably decimate a few team members or entire team if I'm lucky. Most of the leagues have been pretty good about not letting me get too many Dragon Dances up. Delphox is a more recent trait. Oh, sorry, you about to say something?
I was just gonna say people have definitely gotten used to the DD thing on a lot of the big DD sweepers. Gyarados isn't in this particular draft, but I think that people have gotten terrified of Dragon Dance Gyarados over the years, and I'm hoping that I'm having the same impact with the Haxorus.
That seems right. Dragon Dance is a terrifying set.
It's the best set move. It just is.
Going on to my NU picks, I haven't been using Mesprit to its full advantage, I will say that. It's a good physical wall, it's good at Stealth Rocks, and it's definitely got that Healing Wish, which I should probably utilize a little bit more. And then Comfy, I've been using Comfy here to the end. Comfy is absolutely amazing. It's got Prior of Triage. It is walled by certain priority blocking things like Tapu Lele or Calvin's freaking Sarina. But if you can get a few Calm Minds up, you have Geiger Drain, Draining Kiss. It's really quite threatening. Overall, I'd say I have a few offensive threats in fact of Zeraora, Magneton if for Choice Specs or Scarf on it, Rotom Mow, and for Alligator, and more recently Delphox and Comfy. But I'd say primarily my team's value is in their tanks. Sableye, Mega, Hippowdon, Magneton F for Eviolite. I've done that once or twice. Porygon 2, Mesprit. These are all fairly decent tanks. And I'd say I rely on them more often than not to eat up attacks.
The amount of recovery that you have on your team between Sableye, Hippowdon, and Porygon is just not okay. It's an insane amount of recovery.
It's been very helpful.
Yeah. You just have staying power like pretty much no other team. I don't think there's really a team that's better at stalling things out just from a pure recovery standpoint than yours. I could be missing something here, but it looks like you have staying power that far surpasses most of the teams here, which is definitely something to take advantage of.
Even if I get crippled or toxic or something, that's why I have Mesprit. So if I bring Mesprit, I can just Healing Wish all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's the strongest point of Sean's team is even though, like I said, I feel like there's some meshing problems with the walls, I feel like they're also bulky enough where if you find a threat that's set up for you, you're always going to be able to heal up comfortably and find some kind of designated tank to deal with what's ailing your team the most. I do like Comfey on this team. I think it's really great, honestly. The priority is really good and definitely something your team needs, especially since a lot of your team revolves around whittling things down and just kind of, that's more or less your best way of gaining victories, whittling things down and then having a late game sweep with either for Alligator or Comfey.
Definitely, and a lot.
Yeah.
The nice thing is some big threats like Como, Haxorus, freaking Kyrian Black. A lot of these are weak to Fairy types, so it's definitely a nice option to have Hydreigon, your Hydreigon.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think you'll ever have somebody that questions the reliability of a late game cleanup fairy. They're just completely reliable. I would honestly be surprised to see that type go without some kind of balance changes when these new generation of games come out, whether that's this year or next year. Hopefully this year. But I would be surprised to see fairy type go untouched as far as balancing goes. For now, though, they're amazing, and they dictate games. So
which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. What are you guys thinking score-wise for this team?
I think at the beginning, I think that your team was looking at like a weak 3 to a strong 2. But with the round of changes that you've done, losing some stuff that I love in the form of Minior, but that I recognize as gimmicky stuff that really, once it's discovered, it's not going away. Like people know what Minior does these days, unfortunately. As much as I love
Minior,
it's predictable.
Minior was risky to begin with, because a lot of people in this group know what Minior does thanks to you. But
did I do that?
Minior was risky.
Okay.
So don't get me wrong, it's a great Pokemon, but I'm glad that that's gone. And I think that Mini or Vidal's Fox is just an awesome switch for you all around. And with the trades that you've done, I think your team, looks like a 4. I feel like it fixes on. It doesn't have quite the same degree of speed control that something like Lewis's team does, just because he's got his 2 ridiculously fast mons to take advantage of speed tiers with the Coco and the Manectric. And Zero Aura is insanely fast, but
It's one Pokemon.
It's one Pokemon. But on the plus side, you're not staggered or held down by that over-reliance on electric type, which is also a great thing. So I feel like your team is 4-star worthy.
Galvin, the 2 years?
Yeah, what do you think, Calvin?
Yeah, I really didn't like this team when it was drafted. I felt like there was too much overlapping, similar to how Hayden was. Too many, like Hippo and Claydol doing the same thing. Celebi, Rotom's Zero Aura. You still got some problems. Like I said, 3 electric types. Not much coverage for things like, I don't know. I think your walls still struggle dealing with neutral hits of setup guys and such. But I think it's still a playable team. And in your hands, obviously, I don't think that really hinders you. Obviously, because you're a pretty great player. But I don't know, just on paper, like when I do give out star ratings, I just looking at the team. So if I was to hand this team to someone like Kelsey, how well would Kelsey do with this team? If I was to hand this team to someone like Ross, how well would he do? What if I was to try to use this team? I think right now it's a pretty middle of the road team. It's not too bulky. It's not too offensive. It's got a little bit of everything, but not overwhelmingly. I don't know. I would give it a solid 3 right now. Not trying to be offensive or anything, but
Oh no, I'm completely realistic of my team's rating. That being said, I give it a 5. Okay, honestly, 100%. I do agree with a lot of the points you guys have raised. It does have a little bit of overlapping niches, especially in the form of Rotom-Mow and Zera Aura. I do have a bit of a weakness to ground types. For Alligator and Rotom-Mow do help cover that up, but the fact that I have 3 major electric types to fight against, 3 major electric types that kind of just get eaten up by ground types, I'd say 3 stars, maybe 4 if I'm having a good day. But I'm pretty comfy with the rest of my team.
I get it.
Thank you.
Oh, painful. All right.
Then.
Well, that was a good analysis, I think.
I think so.
Some controversial conversations going on here in the podcast.
Some hot takes.
That being said, I do still have 2 trades, so you never know what I'm going to get rid of.
That's true.
Who knows? I may have a chance to pick up Rotom.
Good.
Need more Rotoms.
Actually, I kind of like Serena as it is, so might keep
Ooh.
I thought about picking that up for a long time. I just couldn't afford to lose the speed on Flygon.
Yeah, it's tough trying to figure out what the hell you want to lose, because a lot of them you can think of like, oh yeah, I want to keep this.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. Do we want to move on to the final piece of discussion for the evening? It's 1 in the afternoon for you guys and 4 for me. I don't know why I said that.
No,
it's evening somewhere.
True.
Yes. But before we do that, we do have a sponsor this week.
Oh boy.
Yes. We are sponsored by the power of friendship. That's all I got for you.
Lovely.
But it is strong and it is powerful. And it will help us prevail.
Should I start playing the Pokemon theme song here?
Nah, we don't want to get this copyright stricken.
If you cry enough, you can revive your frozen to stone ash friends.
Pokemon tears are full of life.
Oh, well, this is Calvin, I hope you're proud.
All right, yeah, no, we can move on to the final topic here.
He cried his best.
He did, and it worked.
All right, Calvin, you proposed this discussion topic. You want to get the ball rolling?
Sure. So we're going to just talk kind of broadly about the playoffs and kind of what we think is going to be going down. Since we're pretty close to the end here, we've got 2 weeks left, 1 week, which is a half week. I think the playoffs are starting to solidify as to who we can expect and not expect. But I think it's an interesting enough topic. Real quickly before we get into it, though, I'd like to provide a little history lesson just to show kind of some of the newer players who has made it to playoffs before in some of our other leagues, just for a little bit of context. So, before this, all of our playoffs have only been maximum 4 players since we've had such smaller tournaments. So in the Animal Draft League, we had myself, Sean, Luke, and Carter make playoffs.
Oh man, I remember that.
That was a very good tournament. That was one of the first major draft leagues we did. So that was a really fun one. Me and Sean had a good match. Luke and Carter had a good match. And then me and Carter had a great finale. So that was a good one. The next tournament we did was a type team. We had myself, Sean, Jared, and Hayden made playoffs that time. Leo had just barely not made it.
Yep. Hayden beat me by 1 point.
Yeah, that was a rough one. But for Leo's first tournament ever, that was pretty impressive for him to just do that well, honestly.
What type did you have, Leo? Can't remember.
I was Steel.
Steel, right? You had to make a Steelix again.
That was actually a regular Steelix that time, and that's what.
Oh right, there's no Megas on.
And then I drafted Mega Steelix in the budget draft.
Right, there were no Megas involved in Aladdin.
No, there was.
What was my Mega in? I don't remember what my team was in the Steel draft.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But with the type team, me and Jared had a really good series of matches. Sean and Hayden, unfortunately, Hayden had a very tough matchup with his flying against
my hyper offense.
But you did make it through to 3 games, so honestly, he still gave you a good run for your money. And then obviously Sean crushed me in the finale, so that was great.
It was. I will admit, my electric team was tough to beat because it was just super hyper offense. I had Louis' core, basically, Tapu Koko, Mega Manectric, and I had some good ones in like Jolteon, Vikavolt, Alolan Golem.
Ooh. Trap those steel types.
Oh, by the way, Leo, I just looked it up. You didn't have a Mega for your steel types.
That's right. I think I thought about
it. You had Mage Yarnet for OUs, though, so to be fair.
Oh, I had better than any Mega could have offered. That's right.
Pretty much.
And moving on to the budget draft league, it was me, Sean, and Jared again made playoffs, but this time Ross made playoffs. He had been in our group since the annual draft, so this was a big moment for him. Me and Jared once again squared off, and Sean and Ross had a pretty good series of matches, and then me and Sean had another big final match. And there's
a bit of a theme here.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a theme. And then the most recent league before this one was the team league, which saw just 2 teams making it to playoffs,
but 4 players.
But it was still 4 players. So it was mine and Laurel's team versus Leo and Connor's team, which is very cool because besides me, all 3 of these players had not seen playoffs before, which is very cool in my opinion.
That was Connor's first full tournament too, so he had not been around for very long. He filled in for Luke at the end of the budget draft, but that was the first time that he was in there for the entire thing, so that was cool.
Right.
Hmm. So, what I would basically, one of the reasons why I brought this up, for one, was to give a little history, because I think that's important. But two, to also show just how drastically open this one is. This tournament is breaking the mold in a lot of ways, I think.
We've had a lot of new people join, and they've really shook things.
Agreed. And it is so insane just how much everything is, just how tough of a tournament this has been. If you go and look back at every week recap, there is such movement. Like the first couple weeks, Laurel was in first place, dominating this league.
This sheet looks nothing like the week 1 recap sheet.
Mm-hmm. Like, and just like, we got new players, like Reggie just coming out of the gates, just completely dominating. And, now getting into the playoff analysis for the draft of power here, 100% Reggie is making playoffs.
Yep.
I think he made a really good statement by just beating me week 1 and by steamrolling a lot of others that he was here to make playoffs.
Just as a quick recap, why don't we say who's in the top 8 right now?
Oh, for sure.
Sure.
Just because it helps everyone see who's right now in a position to be in.
Sure, give her.
All right, at first place we have Calvin, 10-2. Second place we have Reggie, 10-4. Third place we have Leo, 9-3. Fourth place we have Ross, 9-3. Fifth place we have Shane, 8-5. Sixth place we have Chris, 7-6. Seventh place we have me, 6-6. And eighth place we have Luke, 6.
Yeah. Very, very cool to see so many fresh faces. Like I said, we do have a lot of the familiars. We do have me, Sean, and Ross, even Leo. Got some of the familiars. But then, Reggie out of the gate, coming in, dominating this tournament. Shane, who's a admin in our sister group there at CBA, coming in, fighting for his for his own pride and glory.
Really doing well.
Yeah, he was doing really good. Having a harder time near the end here, but he came out of the gate really strong.
Yeah, no kidding. He's had a lot of ridiculously tough opponents for these last couple of weeks, though. Like, he played... he's playing you next week, Calvin, right? And he's playing Reggie last week. So he's got all the... It's very front-loaded at the top right now. He's playing all the guys that are up at the top right now.
Oh, for sure. and we even got Chris, even someone who I've never known before. It was just one of Ross's friends. Just came in here, and he's in playoff contention right now. He's trying to separate himself from the pack.
Yeah, trying to get a couple more wins between him and you and Luke, Sean.
Yeah, which is I can understand that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. From what I'm looking at,
yeah, it's just so good. Sorry, I'm just gushing.
That's all right. From what I can see, there's two main groups in this playoff. There's 1 through 4 with Calvin, Reggie, Leo, and Ross, who are sitting at either 9 or 10 wins. Then there's kind of the back of the pack, which I'm not afraid to admit I'm part of, from 8, 7, 6, and kind of a little bit of Shane, who's sitting at basically around 6 or 7 wins, although Shane's sitting at 8 right there. So it's kind of two main parts. I think the top 4 are kind of safe there, because I don't think we're going to be catching up to you anytime soon.
I don't think there's any danger of me or Ross dropping from playoff contention, but the higher places are definitely still attainable. There's not the 8th place right now. Luke only has 3 less wins than me, and getting
there are only 3 less.
Yeah, getting these last 3 games as W's goes a long way.
That's true.
Yeah, and even the people like, you know how Sean was saying there's a couple groups. I'd say there is a few groups. I'd put Shane as in the top 5 of us.
Yeah,
I
I would
think
say
him
so, too.
being one loss lower than Leo and Ross, he's still really close.
And he was
Yeah,
part of this
he's
big
got-
long tie for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I'd still keep him up there.
Yeah, he kind of dropped towards in between the two groups, but he's definitely more a part of the front runner group thing is the back.
Yeah. But the one thing I would also like to point out is the back group is actually a lot larger than what you just said. Because if you
That
look
is
at
true.
9th place, the only reason Kyler is in 9th place and not 8th is because of 2 points of differential. And the only reason that Lewis is not in 8th place is because of 6 points. Nope, sorry, 4 points of differential. Even looking at Laurel and Hayden, they only have one lot. And Dan, sorry, throw Dan in there. They only have one win below the rest of the pack. This is such a close game right now. I really think that playoffs is really attainable for anybody still at this point. Maybe not for, sorry to point out, for Steven or Kelsey, even, I'd say even William and, even William, it's probably not realistic, but everybody else still has a firm shot, I think.
It's possible for William, but it's going to be really slim chance.
Yeah, he's got some tough matches. He's got Ross.
Oh,
You never know.
that's rough.
So best luck to you, William, for that.
Yeah, definitely. Where do we want to take this topic? Do we want to start doing predictions, or what would you like to do?
I would love to do predictions. What are who do you think's going to make top 8 at the end?
Okay,
Straight up.
so Shane DeCalvin is set. I think top 5 are going to be those 5 names.
Agreed.
I think Lewis will make it in. I think Lewis is probably the strongest player of that bunch. It's between Lewis and Luke of that bunch with 6 wins. Sean, I'm confident that you'll make it in.
I've got a tough final match. Hold on a second. Who's my final match? Oh, no, I've got Manny, Daniel, Kyler, and William as my last 3 matches. So hopefully I should still make it in.
Okay, I'm pretty sure Sean's getting no offense to those guys, but like I'm pretty sure Sean's in with that.
I don't know. I've made some pretty boneheaded moves in the past.
Well, we'll see.
So I'm going to
We'll
still
see.
pick it up.
I think Luke might have some potential. It really depends. Luke is such an anomaly to me because sometimes he just can come into these matches and just go. I'm sorry that I voted for Sean and Luke, but it just shows that there are matches where he can dominate a player in such a way that he has such a comfortable grasp of the game and what's happening that he really looks good. And he's when I see that Luke, I can see him being a menace. And I actually don't want Luke to make playoffs because I think he's such an unpredictable, hard foe. But then you even go and look at his Ross match where he looks like a chicken with his head cut off, doesn't have a clue what he's doing. So it's really hard to say with Luke. He's definitely the wild card in this all, I'd say.
I'd say Luke's great at the start, but the second pressure starts to get put on, he starts to get flustered and lose track of what.
That's true. I don't know. If I had to go with my top 8, myself, Reggie, Ross, Leo, and Shane, I'm confident we'll all make it. Chris has a bit of the advantage with the extra win. Here, let me get the schedule up here. Actually, that should help.
That's true. That'll be a big deal.
Yeah, I'm looking at the upcoming match. Luke is going up against Laurel, Leo, and Chris.
Those are
So it's speaking for yourself there.
I'm not trying
So
to be an
Chris-
asshole.
No, I know. None of us are trying to be assholes here.
No.
We're all just being realistic.
I'm just joking.
Okay, well, with Chris, see, actually, he doesn't really have that great of an advantage against the 6-win guys because he's got a bye week, which actually sucks for him.
Oh, that is unfortunate.
Yeah, and then he's got to battle me, which is important because that's obviously going to be a hard match for him, I'd like to think.
Yeah, it is.
And then he's battling with Luke, who is directly one of those people fighting. So that's actually going to be a very important match.
That match is going to decide who stays in top 8, probably.
Honestly, if I were you guys, I would make sure you go and watch that match live. I might make sure I do so myself.
Yeah, it all depends on when it is.
Is that the match for the final week, or is his match with Luke this week?
That's the final week.
Okay.
That's going to be a nice big one.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good one. Lewis, I want to take a quick look at what he has. So he has a bye week as well, which really hurts him, I think. And, oh, man. He's got Shane and Reggie.
Oh.
Yeah, Louis is not going to have a fun week.
Ooh. Good luck to him.
Hey. I think that might change because I was thinking Lewis might get in, but unfortunately, sorry, Lewis, I don't think you're going to make that one. I'll put my cards on, I said the top 5. I'll put Sean in there of making it. I want to quickly look at Luke's week. Luke has Laurel, Leo, and Chris. So Luke has more games to play.
That's true.
That's a double-edged sword, though, because on one hand it means more chances to get ahead, but also means more time to eat crap.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, man.
Laurel's going to be gunning for that, too. Like, she's in contention.
She's in contention, and she's got such good advantages against Luke, unfortunately. Oh, man, that's tough to say about that one there, too. With Leo, yeah, that's going to be hard. He doesn't have the best Lele counters.
Nah, not really.
And Chris, I'd say he has a decent shot with Chris.
I think that his team is a pretty comfortable matchup into Chris. Mostly just because he has really straightforward ways to deal with the Blacephalon. Like, Crawdont just eats Blacephalon alive. Sneasel, pretty good at dealing with Blacephalon. Chris's big win con most of the time is something that Luke's got a couple of answers for.
Crawdon is definitely going to be Luke's big tool. Crawdon's been a very popular Pokemon for Luke, so I'd say Suicune and frickin' what is it? Not Delmise. Snorlax might be just for the bulk.
Crawdon gets superpower, but that's true.
Yeah, but it doesn't get adaptability boost from
It doesn't.
superpower.
It doesn't.
Well, with a choice band, anything's possible. I don't know. I'll stick with my guns here. I think I'll pick the top 5 there. I'll say Sean's going to make it. I'll say I'll say Luke's going to make it, and I think between Kyler and Lewis, I'd say Kyler has a better matchup with his guys than Lewis does. But he's not been playing the greatest. I'll go with Lewis. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah.
Second, who's Kyler going up against again?
He's got Ross, yourself, and Laurel.
Oof. Yeah, it's gonna be rough. Hold on a second. So definitely the top 5, as mentioned before, they're pretty much locked in. I think that, actually, side note, I think that Reggie's going to come out and steal first place from you, Calvin, just because Reggie's got a decent chance.
That's true.
For people who are actually going to be in the playoffs, top 5, I think I'm going to edge in. I'm definitely going to try. I believe I can do it. Chris is definitely, I feel like, going to get in. And then for that last spot, I don't think Luke or Chris... Sorry, not Luke. Luke or Louie are going to get in, just because of the tough matches there. But at the same time, I was thinking maybe Kyler, but Kyler's got more tough matches. I don't know, that last spot's kind of up for grabs. If I had to make a guess, I'd probably say maybe Laurel.
That's true, actually. We haven't even discussed her. What are her final matches here? Oh, wow. Actually, you know what? I changed that. Yeah, sorry. I think Laurel's making it. She's got Luke, she's got Dan, and she's got Kyler.
Yeah, I think that she's going to make it in. So yeah, I'm locking my in.
I think top 5 are staying the same. I think Sean, Luke, and Laurel grab the last spots. Because I think Chris versus Luke is the most important match for determining who's making in those last few spots in playoffs, and I think Luke is going to have the edge on that one. Plus, not having a bye, I think Luke is going to be grabbing that final spot. So that's my predictions. Luke, Sean, and Laurel for the last 3 spots.
Okay.
I agree with a good chunk of that. I still think I'm going to get in. Definitely think Laurel. I think Chris is going to prevail over Luke because Luke is a great player, but he's going to. I think he's going to be a little predictable.
Could be.
And he might sack the crowd on just to spite me again.
Could be.
Okay. Now, I want to. This one's going to be a little bit harder to speculate because we don't know who's in. Mm-hmm. But who do you think is going to win this tournament once they make it to playoffs? Who's your money?
Ooh.
Maybe since it's hard to predict every single thing, maybe pick who do you think are the top 2 players that make the finals and who wins?
It all depends on who gets matched up in the quarterfinals. To be perfectly honest, like if you and I get matched up in the quarterfinals, or Reggie or me, or you and Reggie, that's gonna be a damn tough battle.
That's true.
I personally think the 3 strongest contenders going into this, just in terms of how they match up against each other, and who I think would end up going farther. Calvin, I think it's me, you, and Ross for like the top 3 spots.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Going with the old crowd, dang.
I know, but I think, well, I know that Reggie got the win on you earlier in the season, Calvin. I think that you've gone through a lot of changes that I'm sure you would have appreciated having back during that match.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I personally don't fear too much out of Reggie's team just from a pure matchup standpoint. And I just think in terms of like the teams that are most well-rounded and the teams that you can kind of flex the most, I think teams like yours, we talked last week about how good Ross's team is in terms of being able to field like just kind of whatever he wants. And I think that while I'm not quite as flexible in terms of like bringing the same core over and over again, I think that I have a lot of different win conditions that I could exploit in ways that people aren't going to see coming. And I think that's a valuable thing to have in a playoff scenario where you have to make a lot of different teams for a little bit of time. So that's my thoughts. I just don't want to seem like a biased asshole.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
I don't know. Yeah, looking at this, I'd say top 2. Calvin's always a safe bet because he's a tough player, and honestly, I don't see you not getting into at least the semifinals, if not the finals. I think I'm also going to go. My second bet's going to be Reggie. I'm not sure. Reggie got the win on you earlier on, but he's also got. You've been prepping for him and some other groups, so I think I'm still going to give the potential win to Reggie. But my top 2 are definitely Calvin and Reggie in the finals, assuming they don't get matched up earlier.
Yeah, that's for sure. This is the way that the initial playoff matches line up are going to be a big deal. Going to be a really big deal as to what the end of the playoffs start to look like.
Yeah. Where I still think Ross has one of the strongest teams in the league. Mm-hmm. I don't actually think he's going to make it. Because just based off the matchups, I feel like my matchup with him is really good, despite me losing before. I think Leo has such a strong matchup. I think Reg has a good matchup against him.
I agree.
Even Shane, Kieran Black just destroys his team. Like, I don't think Ross might make the top, but it's hard to say. He's been pulling miracles.
You really can't discount anybody.
Yeah, it's really tough. Like,
We're trying to predict everything, but it's anyone's game, really.
Completely.
yeah. Honestly, I feel comfortable putting. Oh man, I don't know. I think it might be Leo and Reggie. Honestly, if I had to put my money,
Really?
yeah. I just think Leo, you just your team has such a good matchup with most of the other teams.
I agree.
That's just such a good advantage, and I feel like Reggie also has good advantages, and his prep's a little bit more solid in the way that it actually works for him a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
I would put myself in there, but it kind of, man. I feel like if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose to one of the lower people, weirdly enough. Like, for example, it's really going to depend who my last trades are against who's going to make it into playoffs.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want Luke getting in, because that's really going to determine who my team I have to trade. Same with like someone like Chris or Shane. I don't know. It's going to be tough for me. So I don't know how good my odds are. But I'd say Leo and Reggie. Yeah.
All right, then. We want to start wrapping it up here?
Yeah.
Be going on further.
I think we held the high points.
I think so, too.
Yeah, it's really good discussion, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks again for being on the show, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, Sean.
It's
Appreciate
very good.
you, that you were able to find time.
Hey, I'm in Ream. I currently have nothing but time
Perfect.
between the homework and the real.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Thank you.
All right. We're gonna
Hopefully we'll have you again on the show there, Sean.
We'll definitely have a spot for you if you ever want it.
Well, I'll see if I can find time. Maybe. I don't know. I go back to uni next week, so
True.
you might probably not see me on the show again, but I'll try and make.
Well, whatever you can manage. All right, guys. I think we're gonna call it a show here.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome.
See everybody next week. Bye-bye.
See you guys.